We've been taking a look at Bruce Springsteen, a local boy who made good, you might say. In part one of the special, the main focus was on Springsteen the man, Bruce the person. And last night we concentrated on his songwriting. And now, part three. As a performer, Bruce is pretty hard to beat. It's difficult to talk about Springsteen's performances in anything less than superlatives. Not only are his songs compelling and his stage presence electrifying, but he also happens to have one of the most outstanding bands in rock and roll, the E Street Band. Roy Bittan on piano, Miami Steve Van Zandt guitar, Gary Talent bass, the mighty Max Weinberg on drums, Danny Federici organ, and of course the saxophones of Clarence Clemens, the big man.
Well, everybody has input with Bruce, and he's that type of an artist too. He's open to anybody's creativity and ideas.
Here's Bruce on the same subject with our own Dave Herman.
You work these guys pretty hard?
It's a cooperative kind of thing, you know. They understood that once they got involved, I said, the only thing I ask is total dedication and to what we're doing, to playing the music, and so it's a cooperative thing. If you get people who want to do it, it's easy, It's like you get people who want to work and who've got an idea that mixes with yours, or you've got a, you don't have to, really work them.
Take to the road, they set a pace unequaled in rock and roll. A single tour can last the better part of a whole year. Roy Bittan told WNEW-FM's Dan O'Neill,
it gets rough at times, as easy as Bruce and the organization makes it for us. It's a long show. We play 4 nights a week, It's Springsteen A to Z every night for us, practically. And it can be grueling. But the thing that ultimately keeps us going is the inspiration that Bruce provides for us. To have him out there on stage and fronting the band is, it's enough to make a sick man well, in a way,
Yeah.
And it really, that's really if I had to attribute, our ability to maintain the pace, it's really comes from him.
While Bruce was on tour in 1978, Dave Herman asked him about his work on the road.
Somewhere I read a quote of yours. You said that playing music's a good way to avoid work.
Oh,
I don't know. Is that an accurate quote?
I guess that's pretty close, yeah.
Well, we're talking now, and you're in the midst of a 3-month tour, I think, something like that, about 3 months. 75 or 80 dates.
Yeah.
3 hours a night, traveling. You call that avoiding work?
That was sort of said in a humorous context. It was like that was like a joke. It's like the whole, working is great. I love to.
You work hard.
Yeah, I love to play, and I guess what I really meant was to avoid working at something that I was going to turn me into a zombie or something,
I think maybe what you meant is if you really love what you're doing, it isn't work, no matter how hard how much energy you're putting out.
It's the kind of thing where it was mainly like what I was trying to avoid was just doing something that I didn't want to do for a living, and that's what I meant, A band that plays real hard and works real hard on stage, That's the only way to go. But it's real fulfilling. It's real satisfying.
Springsteen, the man, the songwriter, the performer, is being brought to you by Penthouse Magazine, New York, New Jersey Subaru dealers, and Maxell Tapes. But the question remains, just why are audiences so totally taken with a Springsteen show? Southside Johnny was in our studios the other day, and we asked him about it.
He feels that he is the people in his audience, too. He has a tremendous bond with them, and that's the only way to really be, if you're going to have fun and really enjoy what you do and believe in yourself. You can't create all those, there's enough barriers created just by being in the band on stage and having an audience. There's enough barriers between the two of you that you don't need to add to them by any attitudes or, any philosophical differences you think you might have. You are one of the people out there, really and truly. You're a working musician. Obviously, he has mind the motherload of, common emotion for all of the people who come see him. He really feels the same way they do about the things that go on in their lives. He's more articulate about it, and he says the things that they would like to say, or things that they don't think about saying, but if they did think about it, which is his job, they would. He feels the same way they do about work, about romance, about oppression, all the different things. And they know that. I mean, it's obvious. So there's a lot of love between him and them.
With Richard Meere.
You felt pressure on stage when you'd see a big magazine or newspaper article? Did you feel you had to top your last show? Did you feel you really had to go out and do something great to...
Yeah, it's like the pressure. For me, the pressure is like, not so much living up to what other people think, but living up to what you think of yourself, And like, I know, I walk off stage, whatever the audience reaction or whatever, the review is something. I know, like, if I was true to myself that night,
Right.
And that's basically it. And I go home, I go to sleep. I don't care what anybody says or what anybody does.
Like, I saw you last Saturday, and I felt, I don't know, it was either tenseness or tiredness. That was the night you came out in the suit.
On. That's what it was.
Yeah, and you didn't seem loose. I mean, you were moving.
I felt really good, except I couldn't breathe right. It was like, I got this suit and I had this pin, right, and like it's like I put it on like for the show. I said, "Oh man, this really looks cool," It's like I look really sharp,
Right.
It can look like the rest of the guys, right? The guys all dressed up. I feel like I get dressed up, and they see me. Oh man, boss, you look great, It's like, and then I went down and I started playing, and I felt fine for about the first 3 songs, and then I really felt like a stiff, I felt really really weird. So I just took it off, and I felt,
And the show just improved like 100%. I mean, it was amazing.
The suit, man. The suit's, same reason you never wore a suit when you was a kid is the same reason you still can't wear suits now,
Back, don't you go away. We have a lot more coming. People who saw Bruce and E Street Band live felt that their records never captured the energy of the show. Since The River was released, the gap between the shows and the album, as far as excitement goes, has grown smaller. But Bruce and the Boys Live is still the high point for any Springsteen fan. Here's Alan Pepper, co-owner of New York's Bottom Line.
The unfortunate thing is that Bruce Springsteen, I know probably a lot of people, again, tend to think it's hypey, and it's not. He's never, and obviously this has been said over and over and over again, he's never come across on record. And maybe that's the wrong medium for him. Maybe ultimately video disc will be the best medium for him because he's so magical, and much of what he does is very visual. And there really is an enormous amount of excitement. And when I first heard the records, I just said, interesting, but so what? You can't say that once you've seen him. I mean, there's just no way you can say, so what? I mean, I don't care who you are. He's just that strong.
And what was it like during the historic 1975 Bottom Line shows? Alan Pepper again.
I remember Saturday night, the last show, it didn't seem like could fit anybody else into the club, and this woman came over to me who must have been in her late 30s or early 40s, somebody different than you would imagine would be at the show. And she said, "You've got to let me in." And I said, "Lady, I mean, there's no way. You're going to wind up paying money. You're going to hear more than you can see. There's no way you're going to be able to see." And she said to me, "I have this tremendous feeling that history is taking place, much like it was with Bob Dylan at Folk City, and I must get in and be part of this." She said, "I have a feeling he will never, ever play a small place again, a place as small as this, and I must be there." And I couldn't refuse. I mean, because I knew what she was saying was true. I mean, you just felt it.
Another historic appearance by Bruce came in September 1979 at the No Nukes concert at Madison Square Garden. It was at these shows and in the No Nukes film that he introduced the title track of what was to be his next album.
I come from down.
Here's Danny Goldberg, co-producer and director of the No Nukes film.
He's a strange, I talked to Bruce a great deal after the filming. I talked to him hardly at all prior to the filming, and it was later said by him and by the people around him that he barely knew that he was being filmed. He was concentrating so much on his live performance. But in spite of that, sixth or seventh sense enabled him to have a real sense of the camera, and anybody that's seen the movie can attest to the fact that not only are the big moves very dramatic, but even the little moves, the little facial expressions, the little movements of his hands come over with tremendous dramatic power in the film. So he has some instinct, even if it's not at a conscious level, that makes him an extraordinarily charismatic performer on film. And that was mentioned by virtually all the people that saw him on film.